This is ThriveCasters,
Thriving, not surviving.
tackling youth issues that matter to you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ThriveCasters. Today we are going to be talking about employability. I'm Nathan. My Instagram is @Blakey_MB and I'm 17 years old. Today we have a special guest who is...
Hi everyone, my name is Antoe Walters. I am an employment officer from the Birmingham City Council, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
My name's Adam and my Instagram is below, AADAM_Motara, MOTARE.
Hey guys, Jedney. My Instagram is JADANAY.
Hi, I'm Josh. My Instagram's JOSHANC_.
Right, wicked, let's get into it. Has anybody got any questions first off?
Well, I have a question. As in being an employability, I can't even say the word, employability officer, what do you do and what do you work on mostly?
Okay, excellent question. So, as an employment officer, employability officer, whatever you want to amalgamate it, has lots of different names, but it means pretty much the same thing. Yeah. My role is on the service that I work for, the young people who are connected with us. Everyone wants to look for what employment at the end of the goal, but as well as helping young people to get into jobs, sustainable jobs as well, I might add, it's not about just finding any job that's available. It's about finding the right job that fits that young person's specifications, what they need, making sure that's person-centered as well to ensure that that person thrives in that opportunity. It's looking out for options that they may have not thought about, because what you may sometimes think that you want to do when you're 16 years old is different from what you may want to do when you're 18, and then may want to do when you're 20, and going on and going on and going on. It's changing with the times as well, because the conventional way of job application is different from how it was like 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's always changing with the times, and you always have to be up to date with those things. So it's trying to ensure that the person which you're supporting is knowledgeable about the things that are happening out into the job market. But plain as day, the main thing about being an employment officer is trying to help people get to where they want to be. And if employment is that thing, it's making sure you can help them go through barriers they may have as well, the limitations they may perceive that they have, and try to tell them that that's not a limitation. That's maybe something that we just need to work on to enhance that ability for you. It's also about regulating around other options, because employment may not be the best thing for every single person. Maybe skill-based things are important, maybe getting accreditations or traineeships or work experience, things like that. So it's just trying to highlight what someone wants and trying to help them to get to that end goal.
Yeah, so you were talking about working with young people. So what is the age range that you work with?
So the age range that we work with on the service are between the ages of 14 years old to 30 years old. So originally it used to be 14 to 25, but we started to have such a high number of older people who are over the age 25 inquiring about the service. So we had a discussion as a team, and we said, actually, you know what, let's expand this. Let's not limit it to the technical age range that most services have. Let's try to go above that, because you do get people who go outside of that title of that list. The main reason why it starts so young, so some people think to themselves, oh, so you start when people are in school. And one of the things that we want to be is we want to be proactive as a service. And myself as an individual, I'm a proactive person. I don't like to sit around and wait for things to happen. I like to go out and try to put those changes in myself, because I always believe that if you start earlier, you'll help development much more earlier. It's the same case of why you have young kids who go to academies in football much earlier rather than trying to play football when you're maybe 16, 17, 18. It's developing those skills, understanding that knowledge, but also developing your own personal skills as well for yourself. So your self-esteem, your confidence, building those things from an early age helps young people to flourish much more.
Yeah.
Right, then I've got a question. So you've explained what you've done. Do you think you're good at your job, and why?
My man. Okay, right. So I'm gonna say yes. I do think I'm good at my job. The reason why I think I'm good at my job is I'm adaptive to what someone needs me to be. I always believe that one of the best skill you can have, I always talk about these things called abilities. And I always tell people it's about sensibility, reliability, availability, flexibility, things like that. I always say to people, it's all about the abilities when it comes to looking at employment and looking at life as well. And I think that's one of the things that I pride myself on having massively. I always say to people that what makes me unique in how I work and what makes me good in how I work is that I don't look at someone who comes to me and see what others sometimes see. I see beyond what that person sometimes shows you. Especially if you think to yourself, like we all do it. So when you first meet someone, you don't show your true self to that person on the first meeting because you don't know who that person is. And also as well, you have to sort of think to yourself, oh, can I share exactly who I am in that? I always try to get a little bit further than that than most people will try to do. I'll ask a little bit more questions. I'll engage. I share a lot more as well. One of the things I massively always talk about is that collaborative aspect of engaging conversations. So I'll tell you more about myself. You tell me more about yourself, and that develops an element of trust, and that develops an element of communication that you can't really get from just, you can't really fake that type of thing. So it comes from the element of, I really want to help you to succeed in life. And I think that's the reason why I'm successful in my work, or have been successful in the things I've done before in the past. I pride myself on wanting the best for the person I see. Like because I'm not that much of an older cat, I'm not that much of an older person. I see the people who I work with, the young people I work with, I don't really see them as clients. I don't really see them as customers or anything like that. I see them almost in the same way as like as I see my little sister. I see them as like little brothers and sisters that I'm trying to help motivate. I'm trying to help inspire, mentor, so they can get that piece and get to where they want to do as well.
So do you think your job's better because you rely on like your personal relationships with everyone that you work with?
Yeah, I think it is, because I think this is the thing I've always seen in a lot of different situations. I think when you develop really good rapport with people, people will believe in themselves much more so than they may have done beforehand. You know, I always say that I can have loads of opportunities. So as an employment officer, my main role is to go out and find things. So I can get in touch with ASDA, I can get in touch with Selfridges, I can get in touch with Network Rails and get jobs, because my background is recruitment, so I can easily go out and do that. But how good I am at being able to help, convince, motivate, manage a person's ability to go into that job is the real thing. Like I always say that I'd rather be able to go out and get one or two opportunities, but have wonderful relationships with the young people I'm working with. So I make them feel that they can actually go and do that, rather than have so many opportunities, but I'm not good at actually being, and my communication skills, my ability to be able to motivate someone is really low. It's sort of like, I take, do you guys like football? You like sports, things like that? Yeah. So, you know, what do people always say about like Harry Redknapp, and what do people always say about Jose Mourinho? Maybe not now they're saying about Jose Mourinho, but back in the day, they're always saying that the thing with Jose Mourinho is he'll make you run through a brick wall, because he will give you that extra motivation that you've never tapped into. So he will find that little bit of extraness that you may have not even realized that you had, because of how good he is at being able to communicate and connect with you.
Earlier, you mentioned about young people learning skills from a young age. How would you recommend about young people finding those skills? And do you think that enough young people are aware that they have the opportunity to learn those skills?
Like, excellent question, and that's the nature of what we're in right now, and why we started from an earlier platform. So if you start to develop those things from an earlier age, you have knowledge of those things as you progress and get older in life. So maybe you don't necessarily need as many services to be put in place, because you already know those things. I think one of the things that's fundamentally needs to be also looked into is like schools. So what are young people learning in schools? So when I first came into this job, and I used that period of time from May up until September, because we weren't seeing any young people at the time, because it was the height of lockdown. And what we were doing is we were like looking at the service and trying to figure out what we can do to ensure that it's great when those young people start. So I touched base with loads of different people, schools, things like that. And one of the things that I discussed with someone was I got in touch with the recruiter for Amazon in the West Midlands. So spoke to him about, right, what do you do when it comes to helping people understand more about Amazon? And what he does is he goes to secondary schools from kids who are in year 9. He does workshops with them, and they learn about all the elements about working at Amazon from an early age. Because if anyone thinks to themselves, right, what is Amazon? Well, isn't it packing boxes? Well, no, there's also the IT team, logistics team, management team, loads of different jobs you can go into. So having that early interaction shows, and it's proven that long-standing, those young people will be able to make better decisions for themselves and more informed decisions, because it's all about options. I always tell people, life is always about options, having things that you can go into. The more options you give someone, the better chances they'll be able to have as they progress.
All right then. So I'm just going to ask around the group. So Adam,
Yeah.
do you have a job currently?
No, but I'm trying to get one.
So am I. Are you scared of like your working life? Are you scared that you're not going to be able to get a job?
Well, I would say yes, because obviously right now we're going through a pandemic. We're not getting the education we need, and it's going to be like going off our predicted grades half my exams are, as my GCSEs did. If I don't get the grades I need, that means I might have to resit them just to get the job I want.
All right. So the same question for Jed and I as well.
Yeah, I feel like getting a job in lockdown, because we don't know how long this is going to go on for, it's going to get a lot more difficult. But like even today, I was having my interviews for sixth form, and they were asking me what I wanted to do. And one of the things I applied for was drama and performing arts. But then I was thinking it'd be a bit different, because I might have to change what I'm doing, because like landing a job in drama and performing arts will be a lot more difficult, especially like these days with coronavirus and everything. So maybe I have to switch up some of the things I was doing and like switch up where I want to go in my career path.
And for you, Josh?
Yeah, so I've got a part-time job as a waiter in a pub. To be honest, I got quite a lot. I applied to so many places because I really wanted to get a job while last summer or the summer before, and couldn't get anything. But luckily, I knew someone that worked at a pub, and she was the one who helped me get the job. And also, my college approached me as well. It's this software development team, and we basically helped them do a bit of market research on a software that would help young people learn new skills over online.
So for me then, I've actually been applying for a lot of jobs recently. And obviously, conveniently, it's quite hard to right now because of lockdown, because of we're in a recession, etc., etc. So my question to you then, how easy do you think employability will be for us as youngsters?
It's very hard. It is very hard. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It is very hard. Your generation of young kids, because you're the same age as my sister, roughly. She's 18, roughly that age. She's in her second year of university, and she's thinking that next step, right? So what happens to me after I finish university? Because she's studying photography and media, so that's the industry that she wants to go into. But obviously, that's one of those industries that's been hit massively hard during the pandemic. It is very hard for young people, and I understand and I sympathize with a lot of young people between those age groups of like that 16 to 21 age group, where they sort of feel, is there opportunities out there for them? Is the career they wanted, the aspirations they wanted, like they always wanted to do? So, thinking like Deandra, you were saying about like creative arts, drama, thinking to yourself, is that going to be there for me if I actually do go to college? And you want to make the right decisions. Like when you're really young, you want to make decisions that you hope are going to put you on the best platform going forward. You don't want to take whims and things like that. But I always say to people that circumstances and different things will change. How I will always think about it is this: is if you really want a job, you have to outsource and look at everything from a different platform, especially now more than ever. It was already difficult getting a job, I think, before anyway, to be honest with you, especially when you're a certain age and you may have not worked before, because what you're going against in that situation is you're going against all other people who are applying for the job already as well. You're going against people who probably have a lot more experience than you. And I don't know if you guys have had that same thing where you may go for an interview or you speak to someone and they say that thing like, oh, you know what, I really would like to employ you, but you haven't got experience. And you're thinking, but that's the whole point of me going in this position. I'm trying to gain the experience. So then it becomes a chicken and egg situation. Do I need experience to go into this job, or do I need this job to gain experience? What I always say to people is this: things will start to get better as we progress. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different organizations, and to be honest with you, this current time has shown people so much of the skills that they can actually have and how they can diversify their skills into other areas as well. I always talk to people about the transferable skills. I'm sure you guys know about transferable skills, the core little skills that you have that you can take from one type of work and go into another type of work as well. That is the most powerful thing that you can utilize as you get older in life, yeah? And as you get older in life and you go through different scenarios, your transferable skills will increase because you'll be in different scenarios and different situations, and you'll adapt to things much more so. I think it's about looking at it, like I said, from all point of views. Look at the type of industries you're looking at. Make sure your CV is compoundedly fundamental. Make sure that it's airlock tight, as in no spelling mistakes, nothing out of place. You've done it as much as you can do. If you need to get in touch with the organization to look at your CV, do it. There's no shame in asking for help. No shame whatsoever, because everyone needs help in life. You know what I mean? Like Josh just said, in that situation, he's been applying for loads of jobs, and then he managed to get this job working at a pub because he knew someone in that situation, and he went into that situation. He could have been very easily have said, oh, you know what? He could have easily have been very prideful and thought, no, I want to get a job on my own. I don't want anyone else to help me. Or he could have been like, oh, I don't really know about that. But he took the chance and he managed to get it, and well done to him in that situation. If you need any help in those situations, always ask out. Looking for people who probably know a little bit more in those industries. Look for people who know what employers are looking for to help you, because you need every edge you can get when it comes to that. And then it comes down to as well, how employable are you? How do you present yourself when you go to these interviews? How do you present yourself when you're in that position as well? Because for a lot of people, and you only get that one opportunity to show someone how good you can be. It's like, I used to do athletics. Now I'll go into that if we talk about personal stuff. I did athletics from when I was 12, 13 years old till I was like 21. I used to run at Birchfield, so I used to race nationally all over the country. In international events as well. I got to run for GB when I was a junior kid as well. I got to run in Switzerland, in Spain, America, places like that. And the thing that I take from my time with doing sports at a high level is you really have to make them maximize that time that you have and that one opportunity that you get in that situation. Don't leave anything on the floor. My dad always tells me about, like, don't leave anything on the gym. When you finish something, finish it so that you think to yourself, I did everything to my maximum that I could have done in that situation. But it's all about as well, take your time. Do not overstress yourself, because overstressing is going to show itself in when you present yourself in that situation. Look at everything from a different standpoint and also take things in from different points of view as well.
So when everyone were like kids, what job did you want? And as like we're all grown up now, like teenagers, has it changed from what you wanted to become from a kid?
I'll go first then. I feel like when I was a kid, we all have these dream jobs that we want, like wanting to be an actor, footballer, whatever. But then, like, growing up, and then we find out more about the world, it's more difficult, and then we find out like how we have to get into this job, but to do this we need these qualifications or this, that, and the other. And then it's like, how many people are applying for that job as well, and if you can actually land the job or not. So I feel like growing up and becoming a teenager, that's definitely changed, because I know when I was younger, I was like, oh yeah, I dream to be an actor, I want to do all this and that. And like, especially now that we have this pandemic that we're in, it's definitely changed the way I've thought about things. Like I was saying earlier, I wanted to go into performing arts when I finished secondary school, but now I sort of have to like change what I'm thinking. So I'm still not too sure, but I know definitely that I don't think I can go into that sort of business, especially these times.
So
What about you?
I'll say next. So as a kid, I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot. From about the age of 6, I always wanted to do it. It really fascinated me. And that changed throughout the years. I wanted to become an actor, just a normal commercial pilot, etc. And probably up until I was about 16, I think that I still wanted to become a pilot, but I didn't enjoy, or I didn't think I'd enjoy the process of getting there. I wasn't very good at physics. I don't really enjoy it. And it's mainly physics based, like the course, and maths as well. And I wanted to do something I enjoyed, so I kind of scrapped that idea. Now I'm a bit unsure. I have considered a lot of different things. I do want to go in the RAF for some of the time, whether that be 5 years, whether that be 15, whatever, because I think that will really benefit me, make me grow as a person, and it'll definitely have those transferable skills, like you said. But after this, I would like to show you my CV and see what you think. Because right now I'm looking for a part-time job and it's not going very well, and I don't know why.
That's all right.
To be honest, when I was younger, I think I just had the standard sort of dream job, actor, footballer. Then as I grew up, I think I realised that's not really realistic. It's not really what I wanted to do. And I just think it's really hard knowing what you want to do. I've struggled so much. And when applying for universities, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I was looking through the courses available to me, that's when I sort of found out what I wanted to do, just quantity surveying. And just another question for you. You mentioned about developing your CV. Something I've been doing, which I recommend to a lot of people during lockdown, is I've just been selling things on Facebook Marketplace. And to be honest, it's gone amazing. It's gone so well. I've been so surprised. And I think I've gained a lot of skills from that as well. So when people would come to my house, I'd gain the communication skills from talking to them and showing them other things that we're selling to try and rid of those sort of stuff. Do you think that's something that's suitable to put on the CV?
It depends. See, what I talk about, and I can do an entire workshop on CVs, because CVs within itself is completely subjective to what you want it to be. Like I've had in the job I was working before, where I was working at a job center with an organization that supported people who had lots of different barriers to overcome to move into work. I always just tell people that if you wanted multiple different types of industries you're looking into, so let's say you're looking at retail, customer service, because like, again, I talk about transferable skills. There's lots of jobs that have the same little fine line that runs between them and that you could see yourself in. So retail, you can see yourself possibly in warehouse, customer service, things like that. I always tell people that you adapt your CV and your cover letter, if it asks you for one, to what the job actually entails you having. So I had some people who had like 3 or 4 different CVs because it depended on the types of jobs they're applying for. If they're applying for a job at BT to work as a customer service advisor, they would obviously have more of the customer service advisory type of elements in there. If they're applying for a job at a warehouse, they may not have all that customer service. They would have more of the warehouse elements or things like that they've done at retail there. I think it just comes down to what it is, the industries that you're looking for. But to be honest with you, I don't think it's not going to help. I think it would only give an employer, when they see your CV, something to look at. I'll give you guys this advice for free. So on average, majority of organizations do not look at CVs by hand anymore. So if they put a job out on Indeed and people apply for it, you think, especially Indeed, how many, this baby about within maybe an hour, a lot of the recruiters I used to work with, they would tell me like in an hour of them putting a job up live, they could get 50, 60 CVs, and they may only have 2 jobs that they're actually like advertising for. So they might shut it off. You get sometimes where employers shut off applications within an hour of them putting it up because they got so many people applying for it. So if you think from there, an employer is not always going to take the time to look through those by hand. You have coded systems that employers use now on computers where it actually scans CVs in piles and folders for them, and it looks out for check words. So this is something that an employer actually showed me, and I was actually fortunate. He actually showed me what it is because he was a great guy, and he actually was helping me to get a lot of the guys that I had on my caseload into work as well. He gave them a lot of jobs, and he gave them a lot of opportunities like a work experience and things like that. So I was very fortunate that he actually showed me this, and it basically was right. So if this job in a warehouse, the things that I'm looking for, these key points, so punctuality, reliability, friendliness. I'm looking for someone with at least 3 years of experience in warehouse. I'm looking for someone who's got, let's just say, for example, a health and safety certificate, things like that. They'll put these keywords into the system, and what will happen is the system will just read through all the CVs and it'll pick out every single keyword that CVs have. So say out of that 50, let's say only 30 had it. But let's say out of those 20 people who didn't have it on the CV, let's say one of those kids actually has got experience, but they didn't put it in their CV. And that's where I always tell people about making sure that your CV is reflective on the jobs that you're looking for, because you never know in those situations. Not everyone does it. There's still employers that literally will say, like, hand your CV in by hand, and they'll look at it by hand and they'll go through everything. That's not a problem. But you always need to be knowledgeable and understanding, cognizant of the different things that are out there as such. So I would say it completely depends on the type of job that you're applying for, but it's not gonna take you out of the race. If anything, it might actually make you different to everyone else's applications. Because after a while, if you can imagine, by the time you get to CV number 15 and you see the same things, it's sometimes nice to see something different that someone doesn't do. And you think, hang on a second, he does something different. All right, then let's investigate this a little bit more. And another thing, your personal statement on your CV is so important, because especially CV is supposed to be 2 pages. You're supposed to have on the first page your personal statement, probably your previous job experience, and maybe, or some people mix up and have their key skills, and then it goes into their previous job experience. Not all employers flip over the page and look at the next page and see what your previous job experience is. So if you don't, on your personal statement, have something impactful that states what you can do, who you are, it's your opportunity to sell yourself. If you don't get that chance to do that, so it's important to do that. I think that's one of the next questions. But if I can just add in, but that was a really nice question that you asked, Adam, about what you sort of wanted to do when you were younger. So growing up, I grew up in Canada. So I wanted to grow up to be an ice hockey player, because I grew up in that type of world where it was winter all the time. By the time it got to October time, it was snowing. So I grew up doing figure skating, doing ice hockey. So sports was my main aim, because Canada is such a sports enthusiastic country. So I wanted to be an ice hockey player. And I wanted to go to basketball, but I'm vertically, I haven't got that height game on yet. So wasn't able to do that. So then I started looking at other things, and I was very fortunate. Both my parents, my father is an aerospace engineer, so really intelligent guy. He would have things come to the house from his job, and he would have like airplane parts, and they would ask him to look at different mechanisms and stuff like that. And he works on all like the Airbuses and stuff like that. So I've always been around that critical way of thinking and problem solving and stuff like that. My mother is a nurse, so I've always been around that compassionate element of working with people and looking after people. And when I was about 14, 15, I said to my parents that whatever job I want to do in life, I want to just help people. I don't care what it is. I just want to be able to help people, whether it's being a nurse or whether it's being working in clinician aspect. I didn't want to go down the path like my father did, because I wanted to be around actual people more or less of the time. And then it was just a case of, as you progress in life, like I said before, opportunities open themselves to you, and more things open themselves. Your interests start to rise. Things that you didn't really have interest in start to go, and then you see doors opening and different things happening. Like, I'll give you some. This job I'm in right now, I had no idea a job like this ever existed until I applied for it, because I didn't know that a job as an employment officer was actually available. I knew like maybe as an advisor. Obviously, I know that there's work coaches at a job center, but I didn't know on this scale a job like this actually was available. But if I didn't do the jobs that I did previously, as a clinical support worker, as a support manager for the organization working with the job center, as a healthcare professional, as a HCA, I would never have been able to, probably been able to get into this job. And I always tell people, this is why it's so important about the path you take in life, and always remembering that where you are right now is not where you're going to be in 10 years time. Even scratch that, where you are right now is not where you're going to be in 5 years time, because things change and you change with how things are. So I always tell people, don't be hard on yourself thinking that I'm not where I want to be. Technically speaking, majority of people are not, but it's about how you adapt to that and looking at things to do. That's why I like what you said, Josh, about like, during this period of time, you're looking at things that you can do. And I tell people, use this time while we're in COVID, while we're in lockdown, effectively to upskill yourself. So courses you can do, personal development, look into yourself, build on things, your strengths, understand more about yourself internally as well, so you can be able to combat the obstacles that you may face that are going out there.
The jobs that I wanted when I was younger to now, I went from wanting to become a lawyer, then to a police officer. I wanted to join the army, but now I've come to the conclusion I want to become a social worker because I have experience from what I've been through. Because if you think about it, what social workers do now at this time, the ones we have, they're going off their training, not what they've been through. I would think it's better for kids to have people who's been through some stuff.
In light of COVID and all, what are the best industries to get jobs in now?
I'm part of a network group. This is the thing, when you start this job, and I'm sure you guys are aware, like I had no idea that there was this many meetings I'd be ever attending online through Zoom and Teams. I literally attend maybe about 6 subgroup meetings every single week, and every single person's always emailing me saying like, Antoe, can you come to this subgroup and stuff like that. So I'm part of like 5 or 6 subgroup meetings, and one of them that I'm part of is an enterprise group, and it's nationally, it's across the entire country, and it's different organizations that are still open during COVID, and it could be retail. But when you're looking at retail, it's mostly things like home bargains type of retail. It's your B&M type of retail, supermarkets. So Asda, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, Co-op, Aldi, things like that. Warehousing still booming, because the thing is, people are buying more stuff now because people are at home. So people are buying more stuff from eBay, from Amazon, from stores. And also as well, if you guys ever go past B&Q, I've never gone past my B&Q and it's not packed, or my garden center and it's not packed, because people are using this time to sort out their gardens because they have all that time. And also as well, it's therapeutic to be doing your garden at this time now. So I think industries such as like those, IT booming because everyone's at home and everyone can do all their things from home. I think one of the things that will happen from lockdown and COVID is showcase to employers that the need to go into the office isn't necessarily needed as much. You can do so much from your home. I think employers used to think that if I give my employees like a Friday off, then work's not going to get done. And that's not the actual thing. If anything, work performance increases because you're in your comfort zone, you're relaxed, you're enjoying where you are. But also as well, I know for myself, I work a little bit harder knowing that I'm at home, because the last thing I want my manager to think is that I'm slacking because I'm at home in that situation. But when you're in an office, you might you go out for lunch with your office friend, or you go to get coffee, or you go to use the bathroom, or you get talking with that person and stuff like that. It just depends on the industry in which people want to go into. There's certain industries, as you guys can imagine, are just not really booming at this moment in time because of just it has to be shut down. So let's say, for instance, if you wanted to work in let me use an example. Retail is one. So if you wanted to work at Debenhams or Selfridges or a place like that, clothing store, then right now it's not really popping at the moment in time. Right now it's just not in that position. You just have to diversify what it is that you want to do and look at it from a standpoint of, what can you do? And I always do say to people, a job is a job that helps you to get another job. Getting on the job ladder is really great when it comes to teaching you not just the skills that that job has, but how to be a person in a job. So my first job, I worked at McDonald's, so when I was 19 and I got my car, my dad said, I was very fortunate. My dad gave me his old car, which was great. So I got a car now. And my dad has always been a very motivated person. He's always said to me, right, I'm going to give you a car, so I haven't got to worry about buying one, but I'm not going to pay for your insurance. You need to sort that out yourself. So I said, right, I need to get a job now. And I'm at university, so I said, all right, I can only do a part-time job because I'm at university pretty much Monday to Thursday. So I can only work like maybe one day in the week and then a couple of days on the weekend. And I got a job at McDonald's because I couldn't think to myself, I can't get a job that's probably too demanding because I got all this uni work I need to do. And at the time as well, I was still training, I was still doing sports. So a lot of my time was there. So I said to myself, right, get this job at McDonald's. And I'll tell you what, people might think to themselves, oh, it's McDonald's. The things you learn from working in a high pressure situation at McDonald's is really quite, you learn about people. The same characters come into the McDonald's. You learn about things such as temperament. You learn how to deal with inquiries. You learn how to deal with real problematic situations because things can go left very quickly in a McDonald's if someone doesn't get their burger in time. Little things, just being around other people as well. And that skill helped me then to go into my first real job, I like to think of it, in care. And I worked in residential care with young children who obviously couldn't live at home with their parents anymore, so they lived in residential care. And that went into the NHS as a healthcare assistant, and that went into clinical support lead, and then that went into the job when I was working at a job center, and that went into the job I'm in now. So you see how it didn't matter that I started working at McDonald's. The flow in which that job and the things I acquired, the skills I acquired from those jobs helped me to be able to get the job that I really wanted to go into later.
I had this one question because we've lightly touched on this in other subjects that we've spoken about, and I just wanted to get, as a broader question for everyone, I kind of wanted to get everyone's opinions on this. So I know in other podcasts we've spoken about how different minority groups it'd be more difficult for some minority groups to be employed than other minority groups. So do you think that along with COVID is gonna be more difficult for let's say a Black woman or just someone of color?
So as much as I always preach the aspect of you being the best person that you can be for any profession that you can, I preach that. That's what was taught to me. I recognize that there's always a case where the field in which you're working against is not always a level playing field, and it's never always there. And the worst ones is when it's not. It's when people people go out of their ways to try to make sure that you don't realize it as well. I've been in job opportunities and situations where, and this is not me being boisterous, this is not being arrogant. I know 110% that I am the best candidate. I have all the ability to be able to do that profession. The person, and this is nothing against the person I'm probably going against for that opportunity, but they don't even actually have the qualifications or the training or the experience that I have. But yet that person has gotten that opportunity as such, and there's lots of different reasons for it. What I try to explain to people is making sure that you are in the best possible position. My old coach always said to me, never, ever, ever leave things to chance. Never leave things to people's interpretation and people's ability to use their bias or their unknown bias or aspects of if they have to think about something around race or gender or sexual orientation or religion. Never give people that opportunity to do so. You can't always do that because people are going to be people and people are going to bring in what they feel in that situation. I do a BAME group too. And one is a task force group where we look for more opportunities for young people of BAME backgrounds to go into certain industries that necessarily didn't actually highlight those things for them. Similar in the sense of you got disability confident. So employers are actually going out of their way to make sure that young people and people of all ages with disabilities feel confident that they can actually get an opportunity and they will be given the same treatment and given the same opportunity as anybody else. There is that same thing in the sense of there has to be something for that for young people of BAME backgrounds as well. Because it is probably, if you think to yourself, you're a young person and the industry you may be going into is not known for hiring people in a diverse manner as well, So it's about just being able to look at it from a outside standpoint, but making sure we try to tackle a lot of those things as well. So it's having those uncomfortable conversations with employers, and I've had to do it around disability. I've actually had to pull up employers and say to them, right, so explain to me why you're not. It's not a case of you're not employing that person, but explain to me why you're not even offering them an interview when they meet the criteria, and you've said that. Conversations have had to either to get very heated, or they've had to get very, very clever in the sense of, right, listen, this is exactly how it is. If you're choosing not to do that, you're going against your actual model of practice. And I thought I'm the nicest human being. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life. And that's when you're Canadian, you speak with everyone with honesty, and you speak with a smile on your face. But trust me when I say, when it comes to me helping people that I want to help, I will literally say what I need to say to make sure that those people's voices are heard, because the last thing I ever want to do is someone who can't speak for themselves not feeling that their voice is being heard in that situation.
So I do know, like, youth violence is a big thing at the moment. Have you ever worked with someone who's had a criminal record at like our age, for example, like carrying a concealed weapon or something like that? And how hard was it for them to get a job?
Yes, so even in the job I'm in, because our service is open to any young person who wants support that isn't already being supported by a replication of a service. So basically, if any young person can be connected to us, you don't need to have a diagnosis of like autism, Asperger's, or a learning difficulty, or a SEND need, or anything like that. As long as you feel there's a barrier that's preventing you from moving forward in life, and employment is one of those things that you want to do, particularly with me, or housing or something like that, you can be connected with us. Part of that means then as well, if you think to yourself, many young kids who go into prison, youth offending services, they come out, and if anything, they don't come out in a lot of them don't come out in a better position than if anything, because for some of them, being in prison, it was really, really probably the worst thing that they could have been in, and it's not going to be helpful. So it's so important. The statistics always say that like there's a higher chance of repeat offending when you leave prison if you don't have anything. If there's nothing vocational for you, if there's nothing to educate you and help you, the things that you've picked up in prison, you're just going to replicate them when you come back out. Maybe it's because of the area that you live in, the sense of the people that you associate yourself with. Maybe it's a sense of I've had young kids who I've worked with where, to be honest with you, they probably weren't the one that should have gone to prison in that situation. I had a young kid who, he was out with his friends. He didn't know that his friends were going to do something. His friends ran around a corner, robbed the kid. Literally, he ran back. They ran back around the corner. He sees them. Literally, they're all like, "Oh, come on, let's run!" His lucky, in a sense, was the fact that it was CCTV evidence. So it showed that he didn't take part in any of it whatsoever. The thing with this young lad as well is that he has a diagnosis of autism. So his interpretation of the situation is completely different from everyone else's interpretation of the situation. He wasn't obviously going to snitch. He wasn't obviously not going to say anything on his friends, because he, number one, was afraid that like, oh, if I say something might happen to him. And he had to serve time for it. And it really, really, really messed him up. And it was really difficult for him during prison, because he's not built for that type of situation. He's not that type of kid in that scenario. So when he came out, I started working with them. I started talking to him about like, right, what are we going to do now to progress, and how are we going to help you now in those situations, and dealing with a lot of those anxieties and barriers that he had. I have worked with kids who carry blades and knives because they feel that's for their own safety, and they can't go in a certain area. Like, for instance, I have to think about when I sometimes work with a kid, I have to actually sit down with them sometimes and say, right, what are the places that you can't go? Because I don't want to refer him to a service that will help him with something, but that service is in the heart of an area where he has issues with people. And if anything, I'm not helping him in that situation by sending them there, But at the same time, I'm trying to educate them around, you can't live your life in fear in that situation, because you never know where you're going to bump. You could be at the grocery shop and you might bump into the person from there. So it's about also as well, I'm a massive proponent of educating young people around not just the dangers that can happen from, carrying weapons, knife crime, gang-related type things, but the consequences long-term for you. You may not really understand it when you're maybe 16, 17, 18, when you're a kid and you're doing those things. But what happens when you're now 24, 25 and you have a criminal record, like you said, and now it's near enough near enough impossible for you, because people are not going to look kindly on your CV because you have a criminal record on that situation. It's really hard. So I try to educate employers as well about rehabilitation, the real truth about rehabilitation, because I'm one who believes that rehabilitation only works when that person has something that they can actually physically rehabilitate towards. Rehabilitation is all good in the sense if people will say like, oh, we give them counseling and we talked about issues. Okay, but what does that person now have to do when they leave prison? Because if they have nothing that outside to work towards, why would they not just revert back to default, which is to do something that they've done there? If they've got something to inspire towards and something to push themselves towards, it will happen. And I've worked with a couple of organizations that have been gracious enough to actually give opportunities, like when it comes to upskilling and training and getting more young kids into things. For instance, like the Commonwealth Games coming up, there's such a massive influx of, construction work and things like that needs to be done all over the city, especially because of the fact that things have been halted. There's loads of organizations that are actually going out their way to actually recruit loads of young kids with criminal records and backgrounds, because to give them that opportunity to be able to go into that industry and go into that work and get really good pay and experience that they can then take and progress themselves going forward as well.
I'm sure that you know that a lot of young people wish that schools would teach life skills, such as how to pay taxes, how to get a mortgage, how to build a credit score. So in terms of like preparation for adulthood, how would you recommend young people learn about those sort of skills?
One wonderful question. I literally was talking about this the other day. My friend and I were having a conversation about like how when we were at school, we didn't learn any about this stuff. We didn't learn about like when you're 16, start creating your own savings account and things like that. Again, I'm fortunate that my parents sort of educated me around that. I'm sure a lot of you guys may know, like when you're young, your parents may sometimes open up an account in your name and they just drop a little bit of money in there for you, your own little trust fund, and you can use that if you want to go to university or you want to go traveling around the world, where you can pay a deposit on the house, or it helps you towards a deposit on the house. I think I massively think that this type of stuff should be happening in schools. And I don't know if you guys see this will tell age and how things have progressed or not progressed as much. So when I was at school, I finished school in 2007 when I was in year 11, right? So if you guys can tell me this, do you guys had something called like governance? So on a Thursday we had a class and it was just you and your form with your rest of everyone else, and it was just doing stuff around understanding around. We had someone come in and talk to us around mental health, sexual education. What are you going to do next after school? We had things like connections, and I don't think you guys have connections anymore at school. Oh, you still have connections here?
We do, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So connections were incredible because they didn't just talk to you academics. They talked to you about life, and they talked to you about what are you going to do. I remember one of my connections advisors there, his name was Guy, and he loved that. He did athletics as well. He actually used to run at Birchfield same way like I used to run when he was younger. And he was only maybe a couple years older than me. So I would have been 15, 16, and Guy would have been about I would have only been about 20. So again, it's that little bit of, he's not like a big man trying to tell me something. He's trying to just like give me advice and share with me wisdom from his perspective. And I remember him saying to me, like, you got to think differently, Antoe, because if you want to go further with your athletics and you want to go university, you want to do all the things, you can't be doing the silly things that a lot of your friends are doing, because you've got sometimes a little bit more to lose in that situation. So I always do feel that schools should be trying to give kids a lot more opportunity to learn those things, like learning about a mortgage, learning about the tax, learning about how to start your money development, things like that. Small little things so you can be smarter. Again, starting it early so that as you get older in life. One that we have as part of the PFA team. So if someone comes to us, one of the elements that we do is obviously friendships, relationships, and community. And a part of that is around life skills, because a lot of the young kids that come to us may not necessarily have that understanding. They may not necessarily be streetwise, or they may not actually understand around their own mental health or their own physical health or their own understanding of people around them and things like that. So we do sit down with them and go through it. There's organizations that we work with that are better equipped because they have specialist advisors that can actually go through things like that. But I do think these are things, Josh, you hit the nail on the head. I think these are things that should be taught from an early age. It should be part of of regular curriculum in a sense, like, whether it's at school, like I said, on that Thursday session in governance, or at college in that situation as well, because everyone's entitled and should be entitled to understand how to regulate their future. No, nothing, you don't want to get to maybe like 28, 29 and then start thinking about like, I need to start saving for a home now. And if especially if you've been working maybe since you were 20, you know what I mean? And you could have been putting money down towards saving for a house, but you didn't know that you had to do that. HSBC obviously gives a lot of support and advice with like the Help to Buy ISAs and different companies and things like that. But I do think there should be a lot more there for that. And there's organizations across Birmingham that do that. But the problem is it's reaction rather than proaction. It's reactive rather than proactive. Instead of going out and having that conversation early, it's having that conversation when that person then gets to that point, and that person didn't know. Like, why would I know about houses at 16 unless someone sits me down and tells me that? Some kids are very fortunate their parents probably tell them all this stuff, and that's awesome if they do get a chance to do that. But not every single person gets that opportunity as well. So I do think it's something that needs to be put into more.
Wicked. Thank you for your time, Antoe. Is there anything else you'd like to say to summarise?
Yeah, just to summarize, like it's been a pleasure, obviously, being here talking to you guys. The conversation has flowed. I don't feel that we've had like any awkward like ums and uhs, and I'm not too sure. You guys have asked me really good questions. I gotta say that as well. You've not asked me questions that, technically speaking, you've not asked me easy questions that I could just immediately say, right, go to the part of the brain that knows that answer. I've had to actually think about those things as well. So I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I appreciate you guys not holding any punches and saying exactly what it is, because the more I know, because what I never want to do as a advisor is guess, and I never want to presume. I always want to have an idea based off of what people tell me. So I always want people to say to me, well, this and this, and it may not be something that like I 100% agree with. But that's the whole point of these situations, is having those conversations and those open debates where we're able to conversate with each other on those things and get to a conclusion together. So I massively appreciated you guys having me here. And of course, like I said, like if you guys wanted me to come back, because as well as, I'm a guy that wears many different hats. Like I said, I've done sports all my life. So everything around like, motivation, mentoring, aspirations, goal setting, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, who to speak to about certain things. That's what I want to use the experience I've had in my life as a platform to be able to help in other young people when it comes to making them realize that you can get to where you want to be in life, All
right. And where can we find you if any of the viewers need any help or support?
Well, I'm gonna send you guys all my LinkedIn page, because I'm still in the process of getting a Twitter and Instagram created by the council, because obviously, as you guys can imagine, because it's the council, it has to go through regulation to ensure that it's created properly, especially because next week is going to be apprenticeship week. So you're going to probably see a lot of different things that I'll be posting on my LinkedIn page. So what I will do is I'll pass you guys my my LinkedIn page, but it's basically, if you go into my LinkedIn page, it's just, if you type in Antoe Walters, so Antoe Walters, Walters, you can literally find it there. If you want to message me about anything around employment opportunities or development or anything like that, by all means, it's there to do that. But soon, at some point, I will get a Twitter page and an Instagram page created, so I'll be able to conversate and actually post things that opportunities are available.
All right, wicked. I guess that's a wrap. So make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify at OnPointWM on Instagram and ThriveCasters on YouTube and Spotify. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at OnPointWM and #ThriveCasters. Join us next time for more conversations that matter to you.